nervous as he seemed, he did not for an instant abandon the contest. He lived in the faith that his chance would come, and from day to day was ready for its coming. He schemed against us, as we schemed to protect ourselves from him. If we watched him, he kept his eye on us. His ascendancy over Rassendyll grew markedly greater after a visit which his cousin paid to him in Paris. From this time, the young count began to supply him with resources. Thus armed, he gathered instruments round him, and organized a system of espionage that carried to his ears all our actions and the whole position of affairs at court. He knew, far more accurately than anyone else outside the royal circle, the measures taken for the government of the kingdom, and the considerations that dictated the royal policy. More than this, he possessed himself of every detail concerning the king's health, although the utmost reticence was observed on this subject. Had his discoveries stopped there, they would have been vexatious and disquieting, but perhaps of little serious harm. They went further. Set on the track by his acquaintance with what had passed during Mr. Rassendyll's tenure of the throne, he penetrated the secret which had been kept successfully from the king himself. In the knowledge of it, he found the opportunity for which he had waited. In its bold use, he discerned his chance. I cannot say whether he were influenced more strongly by his desire to re-establish his position in the kingdom, or by the grudge he bore against Mr. Rassendyll. He loved power and money. Dearly he loved revenge also. No doubt both motives worked together, and he was rejoiced to find that the weapon put into his hand had a double edge. With one he hoped to cut his own path clear, with the other to wound the man he hated through the woman whom that man loved. In fine, the Count of Hentzau, shrewdly discerning the feeling that existed between the Queen and Rudolf Rassendyll, set his spies to work, and was rewarded by discovering the object of my yearly meeting with Mr. Rassendyll. At least he conjectured the nature of my errand. This was enough for him. Head and hand were soon busy in turning the knowledge to account. Scruples of the heart never stood in Rupert's way. The marriage, which had set all Ruritania on fire with joy, and formed in the people's eyes the visible triumph over Black Michael and his fellow conspirators, was now 3 years old. For 3 years the Princess Flavia had been queen. I am come by now to the age when a man should look out on life with an eye undimmed by the mists of passion. My love-making days are over. Yet there is nothing for which I am more thankful to Almighty God than the gift of my wife's love. In storm it has been my anchor, and in clear skies my star. But we common folk are free to follow our hearts. Am I an old fool for saying that he is a fool who follows anything else? Our liberty is not for princes. We need wait for no future world to balance the luck of men. Even here there is an equipoise. From the highly placed, a price is exacted for their state, their wealth, and their honours, as heavy as these are great. To the poor, what is to us mean and of no sweetness may appear decked in the robes of pleasure and delight. Well, if it were not so, who could sleep at nights? The burden laid on Queen Flavia I knew, and know, so well as a man can know it. I think it needs a woman to know it fully, for even now my wife's eyes fill with tears when we speak of it. Yet she bore it, and if she failed in anything, I wonder that it was in so little. For it was not only that she never loved the king and loved another with all her heart. The king's health, shattered by the horror and rigours of his imprisonment in the castle of Zenda, soon broke utterly. He lived, indeed, nay, he shot and hunted and kept in his hand some measure at least of government. But always, from the day of his release, he was a fretful invalid, different utterly from the gay and jovial prince whom Michael's villains had caught in the shooting lodge. There was worse than this. As time went on, the first impulse of gratitude and admiration that he had felt towards Mr. Rassendyll died away. He came to brood more and more on what had passed while he was a prisoner. He was possessed not only by a haunting dread of Rupert of Hentzau, at whose hands he had suffered so greatly, but also by a morbid, half-mad jealousy of Mr. Rassendyll. Rudolf had played the hero, while he lay helpless. Rudolf's were the exploits for which his own people cheered him in his own capital. Rudolf's were the laurels that crowned his impatient brow. He had enough nobility to resent his borrowed credit, without the fortitude to endure it manfully, and the hateful comparison